Miss Bathsheba Everdene, I brought you a lamb.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Oak. He's such a dear thing.
He's come too soon and won't last the winter, so I thought you'd like to rear it instead.
Thank you, that's very kind. I'll make some tea.
The lamb is not why I came.
Go on.
Well, Miss Everdene, I wanted to ask, would you like to marry me?
And that was a clip from Far From the Madding Crowd. I'm delighted to say Carey Mulligan joined us. Carey, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Thank you very much indeed for coming in. So we're about 20 seconds into the movie, and my jaw drops for the first time.
Oh, why?
Well, I studied Far From the Madding Crowd when I was at school, and I had and I knew that your character was Bathsheba, or was it Bathsheba?
We said Bathsheba.
Bathsheba.
Just to be difficult.
But I had completely and totally forgotten that she's Bathsheba Everdene.
Yes, yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was like a statement right at the beginning to younger viewers.
Yeah.
That there's something about this woman.
Yeah.
I just did not. I had, the Katniss Everdene, to me, that's a great character. But Bathsheba Everdene, what an extraordinary name for a role.
Yeah, it is an amazing name.
Had you ever? Do you know whether there was ever any? Was it a deliberate Katniss Everdene? Let's place her and let's put her next to Bathsheba.
I think the author was, I can't remember the name of the author of The Hunger Games, but she was inspired by that character. So I think, she nicked it. Which is great.
Okay. So explain your Bathsheba. We still sound strange because she's slightly different to the Thomas Hardy Bathsheba, and I think she's slightly different to the Julie Christie version.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Julie Christie version, which is a good thing because whenever I've done a couple of adaptations where they've been very famous, iconic adaptations done before, and I think it's sort of dodgy territory if you see the original version because they're so brilliant, and it's quite difficult not to see steal things from them. I guess, I'd never read Madding Crowd. I didn't do it at school. I'd read Tess and Mayo of Casterbridge and never picked up Madding Crowd. So I came to it just for the film for the first time completely with no real idea about the story apart from that it was set in the country. So I sort of felt like it was my Bathsheba from my reading of it. And I think what the director, Thomas Vinterberg, did was make her empathetic. I think when you read the book, you root for her in a way. And I think sometimes a lot of her behaviour is so difficult. And
your version is slightly nicer.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's sort of, the feeling that you get when you read a book, the point of an adaptation is to make an audience member watching the film have that feeling that they get when they read the book. And that doesn't mean necessarily putting things exactly or words or dialogue exactly from the page onto the screen, because it's a different feeling, it's a different sensation that you get from reading as you do as a viewer. So I think she's more empathetic in our version, so that the audience is sort of behind her story more, in a way.
Did you have any reservations at all about getting into costume again, doing a period drama?
I did, yeah, I did. I sort of, I did a lot of that kind of stuff when I was first starting out, and I did lots of Austen and Dickens, and
it was very good.
Thanks. It was sort of lots of, it was like Miss Marple and all the rites of passage that you do as a British actress. And it was great. And then when I started sort of doing a bit more work, I was very conscious of not getting pigeonholed as a British actress, and that would separate me from being able to play lots of different things. So I kind of stayed away from it for a while. And then this came along, and it was Thomas Vinterberg directing it, and I was just such a huge fan of his film. So and then I read the book.
What was it about him that made you think, okay, I'm going to put the costume on?
Well, I'd seen Feston a long time ago, and Feston's such an extraordinary film. But it was really when I saw The Hunt, which was not long before this whole thing sort of came together, that it's such an incredible film. It was so honest and so beautifully shot, and kind of the most gripping film I'd watched in such a long time. And I came out and couldn't talk for about half an hour. And so it was the idea of working with someone who wasn't from England, who wasn't brought up with this sort of Victorian British literature, who was an outsider, who could have a different perspective on it and bring something new to it, so that it wouldn't feel like a sort of typical costume drama.
Yeah, and I wonder if. I think people will have sort of had a little gasp when you said that you hadn't seen the Julie Christie movie, just because it's such an iconic film.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it since?
I haven't seen it, no. I will, though. I mean, it's just... Yeah, it's funny. I'd just never seen it. I'd never seen the Mia Farrow version of Gatsby, just by chance. It was just a film that I'd never kind of seen. But it's just so close to home when you feel. I remember years ago I did a stage production of The Seagull, and I was quite happy doing it. And then about 3 weeks in, I watched a film version with Vanessa Redgrave playing the character that I was playing, and she was so astonishing that I subconsciously tried to copy her for about a week afterwards, and it was so weird because I was trying to be Vanessa Redgrave playing this part. And I think that would be the case. Julie Christie is an incredible actress, and that performance is so lauded and loved, and I just would feel like subconsciously I would try and take things from it, and that's not probably helpful for our version.
I wonder. I think one of the reasons why the film works is that, and David Nichols did the script, is that your Bathsheba is still. I'm still thinking Bathsheba, but I'm saying Bathsheba. Yeah. It's clearly 19th century Dorset, but you still feel contemporary, but not too contemporary. You know, it's not as though you've been beamed in from 2015. It just so happens that you're wearing 19th century gear. So that's a very interesting balance to try and strike, which I think is one of the reasons why the movie works. Yeah,
I think David did that brilliantly. There are lines directly from the book that work beautifully, and then there are passages or scenes that have been reworked in a way to make them slightly more accessible. I think you never want to alienate your audience, and so if you soften things or relax things in a way to make them feel more accessible, then that's great. And it was also done in the style of the film. I mean, the costumes don't feel like actors wearing outfits. It looks like people wearing their real clothes, and the way that it's shot feels handheld and feels sort of present.
And the year is interesting because it's been I think Thomas Hardy wrote it for 1857, but you've moved it slightly more modern.
I think only a couple of maybe a
the
decade.
1880s. Or something.
Yeah.
Is there a?
I think it was mainly a costume decision, really, a style, a look, really, to make it feel less less staid and less sort of buttoned up.
Staid and buttoned up is the cue to talk about Michael Sheen, whose Farmer Boldwood is just fantastic. Every time he comes on the screen, you go Michael. I mean, he's got that, hasn't he? I mean, he's fantastic.
He's extraordinary. And, Boldwood is such an amazing character. But he also, we've taken the film, this enormously dense book, and compressed it to 2-hour feature film. So he doesn't have an enormous amount of time on screen. I mean, he's a big player, but he's taken this incredibly complex character and managed to convey the entire story in a limited number of scenes, and he's so heartbreaking in it.
And you have a duet together. You're singing again in a movie, and as he stands up, and his voice is clearly fabulous, everyone else is thinking, is there nothing this man can't do?
I know. And getting to sing a duet with a Welshman, my mother was thrilled because I'm half Welsh, and she thinks Michael Sheen's the best, as I do. But
what is it about? If you're proposed to, you have to have a piano.
And a cucumber garden.
Because Gabriel Oak, when he proposes, very, very early on, says, maybe we could afford a piano. And then when Boldwood proposes, he says, you can have a piano. And everyone's thinking, what's the big deal with
a piano? Yeah, there's this little list of things, these promises, this sort of dowry that you get given. But yeah, I mean, Boldwood, I think that all of the stuff with Boldwood, he has an amazing, he's got such an open face, he's got such an amazing way of expressing complete heartbreak to sort of comedy in a way. It's sort of sweet and
when
funny.
he does his line about the grief that he's in because you've turned him down.
Yeah.
Everyone's with him there.
Yeah.
How can you?
No, I know.
Meryl Streep was on the show just very recently talking about Into the Woods, and she was fabulous. In fact, Mark was thinking that I'd fallen in love with Meryl Streep. Anyway, that's not true. We just got on very well. But as soon as I mentioned Suffragette, her face lit up again. She was lit up talking about Into the Woods, but she was really lit up about talking about Suffragette. What can you tell us about that? Because
we're all really excited about it. Well, our story is basically based on all true events, and we're sort of part of a fictional set of. I play a fictional character, but it's set about a group of women in Bethnal Green. In 1912, who became involved, who were a militant group of suffragettes. So my character starts off pretty apathetic, not really interested in the women's rights movement, a laundry worker. And through the girls that she works with in the local area, she becomes sort of embroiled in the whole suffragette movement, and then herself becomes a political animal. And these real-life characters weave through the story, like Emmeline Pankhurst, who Meryl plays, and Emily Wilding Davison. So the story culminates in the death of Emily Wilding Davison at the King's Derby in 1913.
It's an extraordinary story. It seems amazing that it's taken so long. I mean, there have been other votes, but for it to have this kind of treatment.
Really, for this sort of, and I think so much of my understanding was naively this sort of muted version of the history of what women went through. And actually, when this is the first time people have really, in not a documentary style, made a story about what women really went through in that time and what the militant suffragettes really did and the extremes that they went to and how much they risked and sacrificed.
Are there better roles for women? It's a constant subject which comes up on a regular basis. Is Hollywood, is the movie industry adapting at all? Are there better roles? Are there the roles as deep and profound as you would like them to be?
No, definitely. I mean, no. I don't think. I think largely not. But I don't know if there's an upswing. I mean, there's certainly an audience that are sort of looking to see strong female characters on screen. You can see from the reaction to a film like Blue Jasmine how much people want to see a really complex and not necessarily likeable character, but someone who's just really interesting and a real extraordinary female character on screen. There's a real hunger for that, but it hasn't really caught up yet. Despite the fact that someone like Jennifer Lawrence can make more money for a film studio than anyone else on the planet, it's sort of, we're still a little bit behind.
But her, and her performances are regularly fantastic. But you, particularly with these two movies, put together, Suffragette, which I haven't seen, but Far From the Madding Crowd, which obviously you have, you are being talked about in terms of almost like a feminist icon. Are you happy with that?
I think, I was so lucky for these two projects to come along and to get to work on both of them. I feel really privileged to be part of Suffragette because I do think it's an extraordinary story and amazing that it's never been told. And I think, it's a great year for this story to get told. And so long overdue. But these amazingly strong female characters just come up very rarely, and so to get to play both of them has been brilliant. And I do want to represent strong women on screen, and I do think it's important for young girls to get inspired by watching women making decisions for themselves and being tough.
So what do we see you in after? So I know we're heading quite a long way into the future.
Yeah.
After Suffragette, what's next for you?
Well, at the moment, I'm on Broadway.
Yes,
so
with
I've got a
Bill
week
Nighy.
off. Yeah, with Bill. So I've been given a week off to come back to talk about Madding Crowd. And then, so I go back on Sunday and do another 8 weeks of that. And then, I don't know, really.
How's
I haven't got a
Broadway?
plan. It's great. It's really fun. We did it last year in London and it was great. And, we didn't know how a New York audience would react to it because it's a quite British play. But it's gone really well so far.
And he was on the show a few months ago now talking about Pride. But what a national treasure.
Yeah, he is. He's the best.
We really appreciate you coming in, Kerry. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.